First contact and subjugation. The Deep Space Relay Station Artemis 7 detected the anomaly first, a massive object decelerating at the edge of our solar system. Commander Elena Reyes watched the holographic display with growing unease as the object resolved into an unmistakably artificial structure. "It's over 2 kilometers in length," reported her science officer, Dr. Weizhang, "and it's changing course directly toward Earth." Within hours, every major observatory on the planet confirmed what the military already knew. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The vessel approached with deliberate slowness, broadcasting a single message in perfect English: "Prepare to receive representatives of the Varulan Empire." World leaders scrambled to establish a unified response. The United Earth Coalition was hastily formed, with Commander Reyes selected to lead the welcoming committee at the designated landing site in the Atacama Desert of Chile. The Varulan ship that eventually descended was smaller than the mothership, but still dwarfed any human aircraft. It landed with impossible precision, extending a seamless ramp from its gleaming hull. The beams that emerged shocked everyone present. The Varulans stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in a natural exoskeleton that shimmered with iridescent hues. Multiple arms, 4 in total, moved with fluid precision as their wide compound eyes surveyed the human delegation. "We are the Varulans," announced their leader, a particularly massive specimen with gold-flecked carapace. "I am High Commander Zexthal, representative of Emperor Varkov. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire." Commander Reyes stepped forward. "We welcome peaceful contact, but Earth is a sovereign planet. We are not seeking to join any empire." Zexthal made a sound that their translation devices interpreted as laughter. "Your consent is irrelevant. We have analyzed your species extensively. Your physical form is inadequate. Fragile skeletons, limited musculature, poor sensory capabilities. Your technology is primitive. You have value only as a resource world." Before Reyes could respond, invisible energy fields activated around the human delegation, immobilizing them. Smaller Varulan vessels appeared overhead, deploying throughout Earth's atmosphere. "Resistance would be illogical given your biological limitations," Zexthal continued. "The integration process begins immediately." Within 3 days, Earth's military capabilities were neutralized. Varulan forces established control centers in major cities. Humans were cataloged, evaluated, and assigned roles based on their perceived utility to the Empire. Those who resisted were publicly executed as examples. Dr. Maya Chen, former lead xenobiologist at MIT, was among those assigned to research facilities. The Varulans recognized her intelligence, but considered her physically inferior, a thinking tool to be used rather than a threat to be neutralized. At the Geneva Research Complex, Dr. Chen worked under Varulan supervision, analyzing biological samples to help the invaders better understand Earth's ecosystem. But secretly, she was studying them. "Their arrogance is their weakness," she whispered to her colleague, Dr. James Okafor, as they worked late one night. The Varulan overseer had stepped away, confident in the facility's surveillance systems that Chen had learned to temporarily loop. "Look at these cellular samples," she continued, displaying microscopic images on her tablet. "Their biological uniformity is astounding. No genetic variation, identical immune responses across individuals." Okafor studied the images. "They're practically clones." "Exactly. A species with no biological diversity. They've engineered themselves into supposed perfection, but eliminated their adaptability in the process." "What good does that do us?" Okafor asked. "They still have technology centuries beyond ours." Chen's eyes gleamed with determined intensity. "Even the strongest armor has a joint, a seam, and Achilles' heel. Their biology is their vulnerability. They've never encountered Earth's pathogens before, and their uniform immune systems would have no variation in response." "You're suggesting biological warfare." That's survival," Chen interrupted. "They're already using us as laboratory specimens. I've seen the restricted sections. They're experimenting on humans, James, determining our breaking points. This isn't occupation. It's inventory before slaughter. Over the following weeks, a resistance network formed around Chen's discovery. Former military personnel like Captain Marcus Alvarez established secure communications. Engineers like Sophia Patel developed ways to bypass virulent surveillance. And Chen continued her covert research, developing a targeted pathogen that would affect only virulent biology. 6 months into the occupation, High Commander Zexthal announced the next phase of integration. Your species has demonstrated limited utility, he declared in a global broadcast. The Emperor has determined that a 90% reduction in human population will optimize resource allocation. Selection process commences in 14 planetary cycles. That night, the Resistance made their move. Using security credentials stolen by their network, Chen and a small team infiltrated the maximum containment laboratory where the most dangerous Earth pathogens were stored. We need samples from the P4 section. Chen instructed as Captain Alvarez disabled the security systems. And I need access to their medical database. You have 10 minutes before the systems reset, Alvarez warned. Chen worked frantically, combining her prepared compounds with samples of ancient bacteria recovered from Arctic permafrost. Organisms that had evolved in isolation for millions of years, creating biological mechanisms the virulents had never encountered. As they prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. We've been compromised, Alvarez shouted, drawing his stolen virulent pulse weapon. Go, Chen urged, securing the samples in a specialized container. I'll finish this. Virulent security forces converged on the laboratory. Alvarez and his team created a diversion, allowing Chen to escape through maintenance tunnels with the precious biological material. But the cost was devastating. Alvarez and 3 others were captured. The next day, they were publicly executed as Zexthal announced increased security measures. Your species' resistance is both futile and illogical, he declared. It merely accelerates the selection timeline. Hidden in an abandoned mining facility beneath the Alps, Chen worked tirelessly to perfect her biological agent. When Sophia Patel arrived with news of the executions, Chen barely looked up from her microscope. I can't allow myself to grieve yet, she said, her voice hollow. Their sacrifice won't be in vain. The virulents are accelerating their timeline, Patel reported. Mass processing centers are being constructed globally. We have weeks, not months. Chen finally looked up, her eyes red from exhaustion, but burning with determination. Then we move now. The agent is ready. It targets specific cellular structures unique to virulent biology, structures not found in any Earth organism. How do we deploy it? Patil asked. We need access to their environmental systems. Their ships, their command centers, they're all connected through recirculated air and water. If we can introduce the agent into their mothership, that's a suicide mission, Patil said quietly. Chen nodded. Probably. But what choice do we have? As the Resistance prepared their desperate plan, the virulents continued their methodical subjugation of Earth, unaware that the physically inferior species they had so casually dismissed was about to demonstrate why adaptability ultimately trumps perfection. Operation Achilles' Heel. The virulent mothership hung in low Earth orbit like a metallic predator, its hull shimmering with energy fields that rendered conventional weapons useless. Aboard the vessel, High Commander Zexthal oversaw the final preparations for what they called the harvest, the systematic culling of Earth's population. The processing centers are at 97% completion, reported Sub-Commander Vexnar. Initial capacity will allow for elimination of 500 million humans per solar cycle. Acceptable, Zexthal responded. Emperor Varkoth desires samples from each genetic subgroup before final processing. Ensure the collection protocols are followed. Unbeknownst to the virulents, a stolen atmospheric shuttle was making its approach to the mothership, its identification transponder modified to register as a returning scout vessel. Inside, Dr. Maya Chen checked the secure container one final time. The delivery mechanism is stable, she confirmed to the 3 people accompanying her. Captain Sophia Patil piloted the craft while 2 former Special Forces operatives, Lieutenant Raza Nazarity and Sergeant Jackson Cole, prepared their infiltration equipment. Remember, we need to reach the central life support hub, Chen reminded them. The environmental filtration system connects to every section of the ship, including the external fleet through their docking procedures. We'll get you there, Nazari promised, her face grim with determination. The shuttle transmitted its falsified credentials and received automated clearance to dock. As they approached the massive vessel, Patil engaged the final phase of their plan. Activating interference now, she announced, initiating a specialized signal jammer developed from salvaged Varilan technology. We'll have approximately 8 minutes before they detect the pattern. The shuttle docked with a metallic clang, and the team moved swiftly. Dressed in maintenance worker uniforms stolen during a raid on a Varilan outpost, they navigated through service corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where their human physiology would immediately give them away. 2 patrols ahead, Cole whispered, checking a stolen scanner, holding position by the primary junctions. We go through the waste reclamation system, Nazari decided, pointing to an access hatch. It's filthy but unmonitored. The narrow maintenance shafts were designed for Varilan drones, forcing the humans to crawl through claustrophobic spaces filled with recycled materials. Chen clutched the container to her chest, knowing that everything depended on keeping it intact. After 20 agonizing minutes, they emerged into a vast chamber humming with machinery. Massive filtration columns processed the ship's atmosphere, while transparent tubes carried water through purification systems. Central life support, Patil confirmed, consulting the schematics they'd assembled from stolen data fragments. The primary circulation hub is through that entry point. As they moved toward their target, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. Intrusion detected in Level 4, announced an automated voice. Security protocols activated. They've discovered the shuttle, Nazari said grimly. We're officially on borrowed time. They reached the central hub, a cavernous space where the ship's environmental systems converge. Massive purification units processed air and water for distribution throughout the vessel and to any docked ships. This is it, Chen said, opening her container and removing a sealed vial containing what appeared to be clear liquid. Once introduced, the agent will replicate rapidly in their systems before becoming symptomatic. By the time they realize what's happening, it will have spread throughout their fleet. How long before it takes effect? Cole asked, securing the entrance. The incubation period is approximately 72 hours. After that, Chen's voice trailed off. They all understood the implications. Suddenly, the doors at all entrances to the chamber sealed shut. A Varilan voice echoed through speakers. Human intruders identified in life support hub. Section lockdown. Security forces en route. They're trapping us, Patil realized. We need to work fast. Chen moved to the central purification unit, hands steady despite the situation. She prepared to inject the biological agent when energy blasts struck the wall nearby. A maintenance hatch had opened, revealing Varilan security forces. Cover her, Nazari shouted, as she and Cole returned fire with stolen Varilan weapons. Chen worked methodically, attaching the delivery system to the main filtration unit. I need 30 more seconds, she called over the weapon fire. Sergeant Cole fell first, a blast catching him in the chest. Patil grabbed his weapon and continued firing, but the Varilans were advancing steadily, their superior physiology allowing them to absorb hits that would have killed a human instantly. It's done, Chen announced as the vial emptied into the system. The clear liquid dispersed instantly into the purification cycle, undetectable to sensors calibrated for known contaminants. Get to the emergency pods, Nazari ordered, providing covering fire as they retreated. Another blast struck her shoulder, spinning her around. But she continued firing. They fought their way to a maintenance corridor, Paddle supporting the wounded Nazari while Chen followed with the empty container, now repurposed to carry Cole's dog tags. They had nearly reached the emergency evacuation pods when they encountered High Commander Zexthal himself, flanked by elite guards. Insignificant creatures, he said, mandibles clicking in what they now recognized as amusement. Did you truly believe you could challenge the Varilan Empire? Your physical inferiority is matched only by your intellectual delusion. We don't need to defeat you, Chen replied calmly. We just needed to deliver a message. Zexthal's compound eyes narrowed. What message? That adaptability trumps perfection. You engineered yourselves into uniformity, eliminating the very diversity that allows species to survive. Before Zextal could respond, Nazari triggered a hidden explosive device. The resulting blast breached the corridor, creating chaos as emergency containment fields activated. In the confusion, Chen and Paddle dragged Nazari into an evacuation pod, launching before the Varilans could react. The pod descended toward Earth as Chen treated Nazari's wounds with their limited medical supplies. Did it work? Nazari asked weakly. It's in their system, Chen confirmed. Now we wait. 3 days passed with no sign of Varilan retaliation. The resistance network monitored all frequencies, prepared for the worst. Then reports began filtering in, Varilan patrols failing to appear for scheduled subjugation duties, outpost communications going silent. On the 4th day, the first Varilan ships fell from the sky. Massive vessels crashed into unpopulated areas, their navigation systems apparently failing. Surveillance drones captured footage of Varilan troops collapsing mid-stride, their once perfect bodies betrayed by the uniformity of their biology. Dr. Chen watched from the Resistance headquarters as the Varilan mothership drifted out of its precise orbit, all systems failing. The agent targets their central nervous system, she explained to the gathered Resistance leaders. Their identical biology meant identical susceptibility. No natural immunity. No genetic variants to survive. Is it over? Someone asked. For Earth, yes, Chen replied. But there's an entire empire out there, built on the same biological vulnerability. The Varilan mothership entered Earth's atmosphere a week later, its trajectory carefully calculated by remaining Resistance engineers to ensure it crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, minimizing damage. Recovery teams found High Commander Zextal's body on the command deck, along with a final transmission he had attempted to send to the Varilan homeworld. Warning: humans not as weak as assessed. Biological countermeasures ineffective. Avoid Earth at all. The message remained unfinished. In the months that followed, humanity salvaged Varilan technology, quickly advancing their own capabilities. The first human interstellar vessel, named Resilience, was constructed using reverse-engineered Varilan drive systems. Before its maiden voyage, Dr. Maya Chen stood before the assembled crew. We go to the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers, she said. Yet we carry with us the lesson we taught the Varilans. Never underestimate a species based on physical appearance alone. In the vastness of space, adaptability is the true measure of strength. As the Resilience departed Earth orbit, it broadcast a simple message to the stars. We are humanity. Judge us not by our physical form, but by our determination to survive. We come in peace, but we have proven we can end threats to our existence. Remember the Varilans. Throughout the galaxy, the message was received by many civilizations. Those who had suffered under Varilan domination celebrated their unexpected liberation. Others who had planned similar conquests reconsidered their strategies. Humanity, once dismissed as physically weak, had earned a new reputation. The species that brought extinction to the mighty Varilan Empire, not through superior strength, but through intelligence, adaptability, and the indomitable will to survive.